Hello, Sergey asked me to do a follow-up video for his last one that he just did entitled It's All About You on the art of journaling, how journaling can be helpful in your spiritual journey, in your process of getting to know yourself better, in your process of developing your own skills and your ability to articulate, understand yourself and life and all of that. So I do journaling all the time, every day. He sees me sitting there writing in my journal. Um, and he commented that Almin did a lot of journaling. So if you decide to start journaling, or if you already journal, if you decide to change your journaling habits or expand them, it's your thing and your journal, and you get to decide how often you want to do this. If you want to journal when you have an issue that you want to work through, if you want to have a journal of only spiritual insights, if you want to journal, just write down everything that you do, the purpose of your journal and how much you'll refer to it afterwards, and how much time you spend on this, how much you invest in it. That's all up to you. So I'll tell you about my journaling and all the ways that journaling in various aspects can help you in your life. And you can decide if and how that's something that you want to incorporate into your own life. But one of the biggest things is that journaling helps you process things. So it's especially useful if you have sort of a lot of nebulous things that are causing anxiety for you and you don't know how to deal with that or exactly what's bothering you. Just sitting down and writing things down in words, it forces your brain to slow down. And so instead of having this just chaotic, you know, Sergey was talking about slowing your mind down and reaching this internal silence. And when you're in this very sort of like chaotic mind state where your brain is very linear but very chaotic at the same time, the first thing you have to do is sort of slow that down so that, the ping pong ball bouncing off of all the walls is bouncing slower and therefore a little bit more controllable. So one of the nice things that journaling helps you do is it helps you slow down because writing is always slower than talking. And so it forces you to slow down and think in a linear fashion. But instead of having multiple, oh my gosh, what about this? Oh my gosh, what about that? Where your thoughts are sort of jumping all over the place in a chaotic fashion, you have to sort of organize them. Okay, I'm writing this sentence, I have to finish this sentence before I start the next one. And you have a concrete thought that you think all the way through and you finish it. And so it helps you to focus, helps you to slow down and calm down. So you're in more of a state where you can think things through, formulate things coherently, and get more clarity on whatever it is you're trying to work through. The side effect of journaling is that you have a record of what you've been through, the things that you're writing down. And that can be useful if you need to go back and reference it later. I spend a lot of time writing down sort of everything that happened today, in part because there have been times when I needed to reference what was I doing July 14th of that year. And then I can go find that diary and look up what I was doing that day and what I wrote about it. And if I have that event recorded, that kind of thing. Um, it can also be, if you're not interested in that kind of record, which, can be sort of time consuming, uh, if you journal about events that happen and signs in your environment that appear, especially if you don't know what they're about yet. Like, today I saw a fox, I saw a whole flock of geese. And, especially if it's something unusual, like, the whole flock of geese was crossing the road very slowly and it blocked my way to work. And if I hadn't been late to work, it would have been fine. That kind of thing, where it's a really in your face, literally, sign where there's this whole flock of geese. And you're like, okay, so what does that mean? Is there a message in that? And then you journal about the rest of your day. And then you can go back and look at did this seem to tie into events that were happening in my life? And was that some sort of a message? Was it tied in somehow? And the same thing with dreams. Dreams are basically symbols in your environment. And sometimes, you journal about, oh, that was a really weird dream. And then all of a sudden you start remembering what you were doing yesterday or the night before you went to bed. And you start realizing that, oh, I was thinking about so and so. That's why they suddenly appeared in my dream. So that makes perfect sense. I was just processing the thoughts of my day before. Sometimes things appear out of nowhere or seem to be out of nowhere. And so then you ask yourself, where did that come from? And the more you journal those kinds of things, where you have some of your internal world and the events that are happening around you, you start to be able to see a connection of, what's happening around me and what is my inner world doing at the same time. And some connections you wouldn't see otherwise. But once you start thinking about it, then suddenly the connection becomes clear. And so journaling in that sense can also bring clarity in terms of interpreting symbols and events that are happening around you. If you write down insights that you receive, then you have those available so that you can go back and read, oh, this really cool insight. Because sometimes you get a really cool insight and you're like, I'm not going to forget that. That's just like, this wonderful, amazing realization. And then the next day, you're already back to whatever anxiety you're normally experiencing, and you've totally forgotten this wonderful thing that you learned yesterday until you go back and read it in your diary and go, oh, yeah, that's right. I have this wonderful new insight to use. So, uh, when you're writing in your diary or journal, whatever you want to call it, so it slows down your brain so that you can process things in a more efficient manner. But it also helps you to formulate your thoughts. So recently I was reading about how new government decisions in America are shutting down a lot of government offices. People are losing funding and everyone's panicking. But in the same article, it commented that these agencies that are in danger of being shut down have been given a deadline that they're supposed to, I think it was like either a week or 2 weeks. I don't know when they were notified and when the deadline exactly was, but they had, a decent amount of time to formulate an argument where they described what their office did, that all of their equipment and people are necessary to complete their mission, what their mission is, why it's important, and if they were able to formulate that we're a necessary organization, we actually function and do necessary things, that they would not be shut down. So why the panic? Well, apparently there's a lot of people who are just not able to express themselves coherently. So my reaction to that was like, so if you can't coherently express, you're working for a government organization, you can't even say what you do, then why are you in this position? Yes, that office needs to be closed. So journaling is one of those times where you practice putting thoughts into words and expressing yourself coherently. So that helps you in real life. If you have to express yourself to other people in communication, that's a very necessary skill to have. It helps you not only express yourself to others, but express yourself, to know who you are. Sergey was talking about this partly in the context of getting to know yourself. So you write things and you get to know yourself as you uncover them to write them down into words. And so journaling is a process of getting to know yourself. You ask yourself, why do I feel this way? So I'm anxious. I have this sort of nebulous anxiety. What is that about? Well, I have this sort of nebulous anxiety. It sort of started this morning when that lady cut me off on the way to work and she seemed really pissed off at me. She had some rude hand gestures and it made it seem like I had done something wrong. And so I spent part of my drive asking myself, what did I do? Did I cut her off? What was I doing? Was I not paying attention driving? And so that's been a source of anxiety. And yeah, right. Okay, so that would make me anxious. Is there anything else nebulous that I've forgotten about or unconscious that I'm feeling anxious about? And you start feeling that feeling of, say, anxiety. And what is associated with that? What comes to mind? Oh, yeah, that lady who cut me off this morning. And something else. Oh, yeah, my boss today was, you know, kind of looked at me funny. What was that about? So as you're journaling, you're able to pick out these things, the cause and effect sort of why you are the way you are, why you are feeling what you're feeling. And that helps you understand the world better. It helps you process things. It helps you get to know yourself better. And it also gives you reference points of concreteness. Like if you're feeling bad physically and you don't have a diagnosis, you don't know what's wrong with you, you just don't feel good, and you have a hard time qualifying and saying what's wrong with you. You go to a doctor and they say, oh, you have such and such disease. Even if it's incurable and that, label doesn't really help you, a lot of times it helps just to have a diagnosis. Oh, there's something wrong with me that is labelable and identifiable. And I can do a Google search and find, information on this particular problem and other people that have it as well. And somehow just having a name for it makes it so much easier to deal with. And sometimes if you know what it is, then you know what to do about it. They say, oh, well, you have this problem. We have this pill for it. Or you have this issue, digestive issue, so you avoid these foods and you'll feel better. And so as we're journaling, it's more of a mental health type of um, diagnosis. Oh, that's why I'm upset and feeling anxious. And so it can be very helpful if we're sort of feeling a little bit on edge and we don't know why. It's a wonderful tool to help calm us down and give us that sense of concreteness and reference point that we need to feel comfortable and function in this life, in the physical world. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope you have a wonderful experience journaling if you choose to do so. And we look forward to seeing you, talking to you again. Bye.